Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Why do we associate Satan with heavy metal? For all we know, he could like smooth jazz.
Well, it's because the musicians want to, they're looking to upset people. When my mom said you had Beatles, they were clean cut guys who wore suits. But if you wanted to make your parents mad in the 60s, you listened to the Rolling Stones because they looked like thugs. They talked like criminals. Their songs were rougher. And there's always been that. This is the music you listen to when you're to piss your parents off. For me, when I was in high school, it was Ozzy Osbourne.
Do you think Satan's sitting wherever he's sitting? I mean, other than the fact he's a mythical being from Dante's Inferno, going, what the hell is wrong with you guys? I don't like your music at all. I want some Katy Perry.
No, I know what he listens to.
Oh, good. See, look, we're already being informative, and we're not even, 4 minutes into the podcast?
Yacht rock.
Cop rock?
Yacht rock.
Cop rock.
Yacht, as in the boat.
Yacht. Oh.
Like Michael McDonald and, all of those bands that are played by guys who talk like this.
No, I bet you. Oh, so you're saying Satan invented the Rickrolling?
No, because Rick Astley kind of was doing what they call blue-eyed blues. This is more the guys who, play the songs that when they would come on the radio, maybe your girlfriend would go, oh, I like this song. And you would go, this guy has no balls. Or the really rich guy with the girlfriend named Muffy would listen to.
And the big implants.
Yeah.
See, I always figured, I never really thought that way. Because I always figured he's got more money than me, so he must be doing something right. I never fault anybody if they make money at it. Except, illegal guys. But
how about inheriting money?
Again,
why couldn't you have been born to richer parents?
It depends on what they do with it. If they do something nice, like why can't I think of that gorgeous gal who divorced the Amazon?
Oh yeah, she's giving away most of the money. But when I think people who inherit money, I think more like Paris Hilton, Eric Trump. The guys I went to college with, who because they were rich thought they were smart.
Oh, there she is.
Really bad when they would get a C.
Mackenzie Bezos?
Yeah.
Oh my God, she is smoking hot. What the hell did he do to divorce her? Oh, I know, he was fiddling around with somebody.
Yeah, he found somebody. Remember what Chris Rock said.
I was just thinking
how hot a woman is, someone is sick of dealing with her shit. And
he was a little.
Chris Rock said it about women. It's about guys too.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
Because Angelina Jolie got sick to death of dealing with Brad Pitt's shit.
And there's another one, a talk show host, Wendy
Williams.
Oh yeah, holy cow, she is smoking hot. And then to find out her husband's been fiddling around on her.
Yeah, well, I followed the fight between her and Howard Stern. She's batshit crazy, I think, is the psychological term.
Okay, well, it's a good thing she has a talk show, because, oh well, it makes you wonder, for money, how much would you be willing to put up with?
A lot, because look at what I put up with, and I don't make that much money.
So, Mackenzie, if you're bored, you got two guys right here that are more than willing to just be your bitch.
Joe, you're married.
For that type of money, I think my wife would boot me out and say, just give me a kickback, we'll call it a It's been over 31 years, I don't know if there's anything new I can do to impress her.
That's one of the things while I was out on my break. It's like, I'm watching cable TV, I'm watching old movies, I'm reading comics, I'm reading novels. I need to find someone who can take care of me in this manner.
Well, I'm just, I read the list that all the things you watched while you were down, and I got to admit, I was kind of impressed because I guess I don't regret it, but I mean, when I was down, I latched on to Deep Space Nine reruns, and for the most part, I never really watched all of them. I kind of cherry picked the ones that I wanted to watch, so it's kind of neat to sit down and just watch them all. But I'm like, really, of all the things I chose to watch, that was what I spent my 6 weeks doing.
Well, Deep Space Nine was my favorite of the Star Trek shows.
Yeah, it's a really how would you say, people got strong feelings on it. You either hated it or loved it. Yeah. And then of course reading behind the scenes how it was franchised differently than the other ones because they wanted a continuing story, and Paramount was all nervous about it. And I know there's always people, oh, a lot like Babylon 5, and they go, yeah, but I think both the guys who created the shows will attest. We're not the first person to make a I don't know, stories based off a space station, and they went about it differently. Yeah, there's comparisons, but they both ended up in different areas, and it was, I don't know, I enjoy them both. To me, it's never an either or thing. I mean, I don't get a lot of umbrage about oh my God, I have to like Babylon 5 over Deep Space Nine, or I can't like Discovery because I'm a purist. And I'm like, whatever. Because as you know, Cory, what's old is new again. And I'm talking, of course, about Robert Pattinson being picked as Batman. Oh my God! We're talking about the umbrage that we went through and all the upset thing. I mean, for some reason, it sounded like we had to get back to comics because I mean, I was listening to us earlier, and it's like, oh my God, we sound like we're just a gossipy talk show. We're talking about Wendy Williams. We're talking about Chris Rock, divorce, some hot chick who's got billions of dollars. No, we're back. We're back to comics, people, and we're talking the same umbrage that people have for Robert Pattinson. And then Cosmic Cube posted something that I just absolutely love from bat-blog.com. Michael Keaton as Batman? And it's an actual physical petition because you kids in your interwebs, we didn't have that fancy go sign up back then. You had to physically sign one and send it in. And, of course, the big thing back then was, how could we take Batman seriously if we have Mr. Mom as Batman?
And the director of Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh, this is terrible, terrible. I have no idea who Robert Pattinson even is. I don't really care. I just want to see if his Batman's any good.
Well, years and years and years ago, he was in the Twilight movies. And since then, he made a lot of money on those movies.
Does he glitter?
Yeah, he was the one who glittered.
Well, I could dig a glittering Batman.
And then after that, he did what a lot of actors do when they get, the huge roles like that, when they don't want to be typecast. He did a lot of smaller independent movies. And I never understand the whole, well, he was in this movie that I don't like, therefore he could never be any good. There are a lot of actors who've been in movies that I don't like, and I like them in other things. It's called acting. Shall I tell you my favorite acting story, Joe?
Yes.
Have you seen the movie Marathon Man?
Boy, way too long to remember anything about it.
That's the one with Dustin Hoffman. And the scene everybody remembers, if you've seen it, is Sir Laurence Olivier is this Nazi who's trying to get information out of him and is a dentist. So he's got him in the dental chair and starts working on him and does the, is it safe? Is it safe? And Hoffman knows nothing about what they're talking about. So Hoffman is a method actor. So what he would do before his scenes of running and everything, he would run for miles. And he would be all sweaty and all there. And they would have to delay filming till he could catch his breath and all. And one day, they're setting up for a scene. And he's asking Laurence Olivier, he says, before I do this, I do a lot of running. Before I do this, I do a lot of that. What do you, and, he's talking about how much work it is. And Laurence Olivier says, my dear boy, why don't you just act?
But I also know someone who may not be having a good week.
Oh, who's that?
I think it's poor Chuck there over at Mile High Comics.
Yes, I heard that very specific robbery.
Yeah, they said 14 comics, said somebody broke in.
You so much.
It did. Somebody broke in and stole 14 comics valued at over $42,000 by smashing through a locked showcase. He cut himself. He had a video recording, and the person who was the only one in the store in the middle of the night. And he got some things. Even dropped original artwork by Todd McFarlane. But he went off with like New Mutants 98, Justice League America 1, Avengers 1. And the internet backlash on this has been kind of interesting. First of all, the first thing that came up to my mind is, really, Chuck, you don't have an alarm on your store with over $42,000 sitting out? Yeah, lock showcase and all that stuff. It's a very rich tapestry. But you got a frickin' camera system. I'm a paranoid guy. I mean, I've told the story years ago about how a group of thieves, and we're guessing they're from Chicago, because the comics in Minneapolis had we got a mental thing here where the guide says it's $20, I got to pay you 10. Never mind that the guide's telling you what it sold for last year, not this year. Again, way before the interwebs, kids. So somebody came through and basically went through almost every comic shop in town and stole their hot comics, including hot comics.
Yep, Brian, they did not hit Schindler's for one very specific reason.
Schindler's has an alarm system.
Damn right we did.
And there was a few places they didn't hit. They didn't hit St. Paul Comic because he put his comics every night in a 2-ton safe. And John's attitude was, at the time, if they take the safe, they can have them. He basically was on one of the busiest streets in St. Paul, and he'd have to bust in and move this thing out into the street and whatever. They tried Midway Books, but they tried to get through a door that was not active. But it was just amazing. I mean, they smashed their way through bottom cases. They went through skylights. Almost every Golden Age, Silver Age book in town was gone, which is why we're kind of a dry area when you go to local comic shops and look for Silver Age and Golden Age. I mean, Nostalgia Zone has some and things like that, but, it was just, it was like a total wipeout. And so when I see this, the first thing that came to my mind is, really, Charles Rosansky, you do not have an alarm system, but you got a security system. And, what he does is he puts his books in a showcase so you can go by and look at them and, buy them. But it's kind of like a museum. It's kind of like that was my take, the way the showcase looked. And the guy passed by other books, too. I mean, there was like a Hulk 1 and there was a couple other big books. And, Cory, you and me as, now we're thinking like these. We go, wow, why did he leave that? But it's telling to say if he took a New Mutants 98. So this guy must have been thinking like new stuff and things. People are speculating he's probably not trying to flip them because they'd be really hard to sell, especially with the publicity around it. That
depends on what he took, because you were talking about a Hulk #1 versus New Mutants 98. If a Hulk #1 is stolen, everybody knows about it who works in high-dollar books.
Oh, yeah.
New Mutants 98? I hate to say it, but you see those all the time. It's like Hulk 181. Yeah, it's a high-dollar book, but there are a lot of them out there.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a picture here. It's kind of fuzzy. I'm trying to get a picture. They actually put a picture of the showcase that was grabbed. There's a Hulk 1, and there's a couple key Spider-Man, and some early Conan, some early X-Men. And there's even a showcase next to it that has even more interesting books. And again, you walk by and you can look at this, but and the fact is that the guy also cut himself on the glass, so he left behind forensic evidence, but he did try to clean it up, which means obviously there was no hurry. There were tons of valuable books above the showcase. So yeah, we're all guessing that whoever did this is probably looking for, he must have showcased, and I'm pretty sure even with the other shops that I talked to about locally, that somebody came in and they cased the place before they went in. Consequently, when I had my comic shops, that was the first thing I put in, was an alarm system. And I got, I don't want to get into alarm stories about the shop, but to me, I just don't understand. I see this all the time. Schools get broken into, churches get broken into, blah, blah, blah. My high school had an alarm system. Matter of fact, we were told quite specifically when they opened it up, you go down into the basement and wait, because if you tried to go up, you'd set off the alarm system, because the principal would get there usually about 7:30, and it was his job, or the vice principal, to turn the alarm system off. The janitor would get there, open up, so we could, when the buses arrived, we'd be down in the basement. And then, of course, they had to concede because there was only one women's bathroom, and it happened to be on the first floor. And they're like, really? We got to hold it when the guys can just go anytime they want? And the guys were helpful. Go in the girls' bathroom. Go in the guys' bathroom. We don't care.
They have stalls.
The other thing about the Rosinski Mile High thing is that people were aghast at some of the prices he was asking for his books.
Duh.
We've talked about that in the past. He asks because he can. And the question is, the stuff one guy figured, $42K? Sorry, dude, your book's on the eBays, maybe $12,000. And I don't.
But he will get that $42K for them.
Oh yeah, and also I'm thinking, a paranoid me is like, was this a setup? I mean, how could somebody break in, steal these specific books that, like we talked about, are largely so common they'll be almost untraceable, and yet
that's why.
I know, but spend all that time as, oh God, I wasn't supposed to bleed. Oh, Chuck's gonna kill me if he catches me. No, I'm not casting aspersions on Chuck, because I've met the guy, I've dealt with him. He's always seemed above the board to me, and I know there's a lot of people that give him grief because of the.
And he's a terrible poker player, and it made me a lot of money.
It is. So we at Solitaire Rose Productions like Chuck. As a matter of fact, we would love to interview him if it actually gets back to him, and
I'd love to play poker with him again.
I think it would be a blast. Matter of fact, at the con, people were asking, is there a poker game going on? And I said, no, I think that's a thing of the past. Which is too bad. So yeah, people are umbragey already. Some people have had worse weeks than me. So yeah, Cory, that's how I'm doing. Glad you asked that question. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Good. What did you want to talk about this week?
We have comics.
Oh, okay, cool. That's a good thing.
Let's just talk about what's going on in comic news, because look at how much time we got out of Chuck.
I know. Well, those are the two things that I caught my eye as the day's been going by. How about you?
That was the big thing about that. First off, when people were saying, oh, they're not worth that much. Yeah, Mile High gets that much for books because they're one of the most trusted when it comes to grading. Chuck may as well have created comic book grading at this point because of the famous Mile High collection. And the other thing is, he has this philosophy of back issues that is dying across comics. And it's going to work for him because he's always been the guy who has it. You want those Strawberry Shortcake comics from Marvel in the 80s? He's got them.
Oh, absolutely.
You want that obscure Image one-shot that came out in 1995 by people you haven't heard of? He's got it. You want that giveaway that Marvel did in 1967 to promote the ABC Saturday morning lineup? He's got it.
Oh, by the way,
if you wanted that Flair first edition number 5 that was Terrence Creep's first published comic book appearance, yes.
Don't look for it. I got it. Even as we were talking last week about it, I got it on the eBays. But you could probably go to Chuck's shop and see if he got it. I think total about $8. And that includes $4 shipping. And normally you're thinking, okay, this is strictly quarter box material, but it's got kind of a personal attachment to it. I can't wait to. I have no idea if Terrence listens to the shop. He's busy or to the show. He's usually out, trying to keep his alter ego in check. That's Spider Baby.
The title.
So I'm looking forward to seeing him at the con and getting him to autograph it. I know I've done that a couple of times where somebody, I think Bud Bud Hansel. Am I saying his name right? His first published work was in like a Twilight Zone comic book from Now, and I was able to dig it up, and he signed it to me at one of the cons. So that was kind of fun. We like our local creators.
Marvel hired somebody.
I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you.
Kind of a big deal to my mind.
When you get hired by Marvel, do you get anything like kickbacks from Disney? I mean, are there good benefits now, or are you pretty much an independent contractor?
Oh, no. This is not a creator. This is a person who's going to be working in the marketing department. Joe, do you know what Little Golden Books are? I
do. I used to have tons of them, and they still make them. They actually, they're 5x5, and they usually have a golden spine, and they're all sorts of stuff. Little Roly Puppy, The Engine That Could, and now they're doing them with properties like Black Panther, Guardians of the Galaxy, things like that. If I had a comic store, I would definitely be on these because they're perfect for kids.
I would imagine that the guy who set up the stuff about the Black Panther and all those for Little Golden Books is pretty happy or not happy, depending, because I don't know who it is, but one of the executives from Little Golden Books has moved over and gotten hired by Marvel.
That's kind of interesting because, I mean, we've talked in the past, it looked like Marvel was actually, and maybe Disney's pushing it, is actually shopping out their young kids line, because we see the Marvel Adventures and the Star Wars Adventures at IDW and some of the other places, things that you would think, these should be in-house at Marvel.
But if you look in the Marvel solicitation book that we get every month, it lists those. But also in the back, it's listing some of the stuff they're reprinting for younger readers. They're reprinting a lot of the Miles Morales stuff in a different format. One might say the format used by publishers of young adult books. DC now has that line of DC Inc. that's in that same format. And what is her name? I can never pronounce her name right. The Renia Tellinger.
That's good enough for me,
Who does all of these best-selling graphic novels aimed at tween age girls.
Mm-hmm.
She did an appearance at Midtown Comics in New York.
Oh yeah, even that caught my eye.
It was their biggest signing ever. I read an interview with the one of the people who worked at the store. Said we were expecting a lot of people. We did not expect lines going out the door, the number of parents, the number of kids, etc., etc. And I've been saying for a couple of years that she is the biggest star in comics.
Oh yeah.
If you look at her sales, and most of the people who are listening to this don't know who she is. Go to Target, go to Walmart, go to their young adult section. She's right there on the top at eye level. She has sold more comics than anybody, except maybe Alan Moore and Frank Miller.
Drop a few titles for Luddites.
Let me pull them up here.
Excuse him while he whips this out. Somewhere in the podcast, Cory would have to get to his giant-sized man thing.
No, that's in the bedroom.
Oh, that was too much information.
This is the Strodtron 2000.
Yes. I'll have people know today, as we love to get behind the scenes stuff, that we decided we were going to record here at 11 a.m. So I, of course, got up with my lovely wife, smacking my face. Hey, dumbass, are you podcasting? At about like 10:50. And so a grumbly Kray is waking up. He's trying to get his Diet Mountain Dew to work. And the only thing that saved me and has made me my chipper self now is that the Strodtron, with the courtesy of Skype, decided to kapoots. So it took about an hour.
Oh yeah, it was
to get us up and running.
Mare. I actually sent you an email with her information, Joe.
Email? What's that? You kids in your old-fashioned ways. Hey, I got box day coming. I know what next week's podcast is going to be about.
Cracking hookers?
Yeah, why not? How about how hot Wally West and Booster Gold could have... Well, I'm not saying that's more of a spoiler. Thank you, Bleeding Cool. Guts. Share Your Smile. There's a collection.
There we go.
Crazy, the Babysitter Club. Oh, even I know that one. My kids were big on that. And she's only 42, guys. I can't tell if she's single or not.
I doubt it. Let's see. Drama, Ghosts, Sisters. She's done a lot of Babysitters Club, which makes a lot of money for a lot of people.
She's got a webcomic.
Yep.
That's the smile. She is, let's see, she won the Boston Globe Horn Book Award title, which is the first time a graphic novel's ever been nominated or won the award. She's got the New York Times Book Review Editor's Choice, a Kirkus Reviews Best Book of 2010, 2011 ALA Notable Children's Book, 2011 Yalza Top 10 Great Graphic Novels for Teen Picks. Now, I'm curious, too.
Now, one thing I would like to point out, if you're one of our listeners and you want to read her stuff, you might want to pick up X-Men Misfits, which she did a while back. She wrote it. It's drawn in a very manga style. But high school student Kitty Pryde has always been the odd girl out. A mutant, she was born with strange superpowers. Magical talents that make the class freak. But Kitty's world has changed when she's invited to study at Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, a special home for mutant teens. There's just one catch. Kitty's the only girl at the all-boys school. Then Kitty meets Pyro and the ultra-hot bad boys of the Hellfire Club. They're the school's elite, handsome, and totally above the rules. Now Kitty seems to have it all. A dreamy boyfriend, super cool friends, and a chance to develop her extraordinary talents. But why is her heart telling her something is wrong? Will Kitty ever find the place she belongs, or is she doomed to be a misfit forever? And this tanked so hard that you can get it out on Amazon for $1.99.
Yeah, there's people selling it for a little higher on the eBays, but
if you want it, there it is, $1.99. And I think one of the main reasons for that was that it was before its time. That was 10 years ago. Now she's a name.
I wonder if she's available. You think she'll come on this here podcast sometime?
Well, we could always ask. The worst they will say is no.
No, the worst is we'll never hear back.
No. That's fine. Worst anybody could say.
Yeah, that's true. We're used to.
That's how I invite people. It's like, the worst they could say is no. It's not like they're going to say, that they're going to, hunt me down and accuse me of cleaning their place.
But I was curious earlier. Now I'm looking at the graphic novels. Would these actually have sold in my shop? I would have carried them and kept them, again, down low, because I always had that one section with what I called kids comics, and they included things like dinosaurs from Epic, which I had a lot of, Archie. I'm not going to go through the previews, but there's a whole slew of stuff in previews that I would consider all ages, and these would fit just perfectly in them. But I don't know if they would necessarily have sold in my shop.
I will just say 3 words that would have got them to sell. Teenage Fan Club.
Yeah, that would have done it.
You had a group of they were tween to teenage girls, and they would come in every day, it seemed like.
Well, they came in to play Magic initially, and it was a place they could hang, and they weren't like chased out.
And I would imagine if you would have had all things being equal.
Again, these weren't published till like 2010, right. So I mean, this was years after. But yeah, if that had happened,
something like that, they would have picked it up and told their friends.
Yeah, I'm always curious though, because these are so widespread, the odds of a youngster finding them in a comic shop. My guess is they probably have already found it before they even got there.
Oh yeah.
But still, I would have made sure I had them ready to go, because I always had somebody coming in around Christmas time. I'm looking for something for my kid, and I'm like, well, this is really big right here, and just to have them.
But for Marvel,
what was the other one that was really big that wasn't necessarily a seller in comic shops? Scott Pilgrim Saves the World.
Yeah.
or even Titans, the whole series there, $1 billion seller everywhere else, but not really that big in comic stores.
I think for Marvel, bringing in this guy and bringing in other people who work in publishing outside of comics.
What was the name of the guy again?
I did not get his name. I read a blurb about it, but he worked at Little Golden Books. But you bring in these people who have experience outside publishing comics, I think is a great idea. And I don't understand the whole, well, they don't know comics. You're right, they don't. They know books. They know publishing. They know distribution. They know new markets. It's not hard to get somebody who knows comics, okay? If Marvel wants somebody who, can help them in the direct market, they could go to any big comic shop in New York, go up to the guy who does stuff and go, hey, you want to work for us? Sure. Or they could go to Diamond and go, hey, do you want to work for Marvel? Sure. Those people aren't hard for them to find. They know the direct market. It's like DC. DC knows the direct market. They need to be working on expanding. I was looking at the stuff that IDW is going to be putting out in August. Almost all of it is aimed at kids now. These are the people who, when they started, did 30 Days of Night, et cetera, et cetera. If you look at what they're putting out now, it's licensed books for kids. There's a reason they're doing that. You don't put stuff out for 3, 4, 5 years and move your catalog to that if you're losing money on it, unless you're stupid. And I remember,
trust me, if you're attached to the mouse, you're not stupid.
And I remember even in the 80s, Jim Shooter talked about how Marvel was books for kids to get them into comics. It's why you got G.I. Joe. It's why you got Transformers. It's why if you look at Marvel, when under Shooter, they hooked into a lot of toy lines. Not all of them were successful. US-1, Saga of Crystar, Visionaries. But Robotics. They did it. But they did it because that's where you get the new readers from. And for way too long, comics have not cared about new readers. And when somebody does start talking about new readers, like when Quesada came in and said, we're going to have this Ultimates line for new readers who find our characters through the movies. For the first 4 or 5 years, it was great with that, but then it started to get its own convoluted continuity. Till by the time they did, what was that, Ultimatum? Ultimatum killed the line because it's like, oh my God, everything is such a mess and New York's been destroyed and nothing.
I mean, it was fun, but there's a reason why in regular comics it's the illusion of change.
Right.
Because you got to put the toys back in the box so the next guy can come along and play with them. Or
there was a story in The Avengers by Jeff Johns where bad guys destroyed they killed everybody in a small town in the Midwest. And then Washington, D.C. was attacked. And then in the next few stories, never mentioned again. Joe, tell me about it. Do you still remember when Hawaii was attacked, even though you weren't alive yet?
No.
You don't remember Pearl Harbor?
No.
Never heard of it?
Never last. Of course. How
about when New York?
I was trying to think fictional. No. I didn't realize you're talking real life. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, anything historical.
Or when New York was attacked. These things have huge consequences. And it really bugs me when they do huge things in comics. And then, it's a shared universe. This town of 10,000 people completely destroyed by, nitro. And then they don't deal with the repercussions of that. Look, people freak out over this stuff. It's not, oh, that happened, okay. So when you're doing a story where something huge actually occurs, you need to plan for what the aftermath of it would be. It's one of the things that the first Civil War did. Okay, here was this superhero fight where children were killed. People completely overreacted. That's what happens in the real world, man. And if your comic company is going to be the world outside our window, you need to do that.
Yeah.
So, other news. I don't know. Was there any other news?
I got nothing on my list. How about you?
War of the Realms sales came out. First issue sold about 190,000 copies, which is a lot better than Civil War II did.
Still, there's about 5 billion variant covers, so I'm always curious. I'm always curious as to which, total. I haven't been over to the source lately, mainly because I'm still broke from the FallCon. But I know I've got a bunch of variants.
So you had no
on my
money at SpringCon?
SpringCon, FallCon. It's a rich tapestry.
You know what would be fun?
Winning that damn Mega Millions. I haven't even checked my ticket. I should. I may not need to be doing this for. Hang on a second. Let's see. Got my ticket here. Never mind. We're good. I'll stay.
Okay.
Still
why don't they call the con in May FallCon and the one in October SpringCon?
They're working on it. It takes a large committee to make a decision like that, and they just don't care.
Back in the old days, it was just, okay, Cory said it.
Microcon 3 for the 5th time.
Willie wants to do it. Okay.
Never last.
Those first few years, it's like, for guess, who does Willie know?
Who do you know? Hey, Dan, you got anybody you can drag? Mr. Juergens, that is.
He wasn't that good at getting us people, I remember. I think
more of a professional thing. He didn't really want to beg people to come.
He's the one who set up John Romita Jr., who screwed us over. And I think after that, they quit asking.
I don't remember that. I do remember.
Oh, I do. I do because I had to deal with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a couple people who, when John Romita called the day of the con after his plane had taken off and said he wasn't going to make it, there was a lot of swearing involved.
I must have been. I was probably a retailer at the time, and so I just
You were involved, but you were more doing the retail stuff. But I don't know if I've told that story.
Nope. Story time.
We had set up for John Romita Jr. to come, and he had all of these things that you had to do. It was bad. He wasn't happy with the fact that we didn't pay people. But we said, look, we pay for your flight. You get all your meals, room aboard, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, okay, my wife has to come. Okay, we'll buy your wife a ticket. And the tickets have to be first class. Okay, we could do that. And then, he kept having, I want my table here. I want this available to me. And we were more than gracious to do all this stuff. And then the time came for the show, and he called about an hour after his plane had taken off to say he wasn't going to make it. He was sick. And I had to inform people because, I had the hotline. So he called and said, yeah, I'm not going to make it. I'm not feeling good. I didn't make the flight. Sorry I didn't call earlier. All I could think is, look, if you weren't coming, you could have at least called before the plane because you knew you weren't going when you didn't go to the airport. So I called Willie, and I think I called Pat McDonough and a few other people. And I will not give the name of who it was, but I heard some amazing swearing that rivals the HBO show Deadwood. And because Dan Juergens had set it all up, Dan was, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I didn't. He normally doesn't do this. And very quietly, they just kind of quit asking Dan for help on getting guests. And John Romita Jr., of course, said, I'll make it up there some other time. Did he ever make it up to the con? I don't think he
never to the MCBAs. He did show up at a 2-day Greenberg show. That was the last time Greenberg ever did a show that I'm aware of in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I remember. Isn't that the show that lost a bajillions of dollars because nobody showed? It was
half empty.
It was during the comic book crash of the 90s.
It was boring, and you had guys. I mean, I look back, and you had Stan Lee, you had Jim Lee, John was there. I mean, you could basically walk up and talk to almost anybody, and they were just probably happy to see you. I remember being next to Harley Yee, who's all he does is Golden Age, Silver Age.
Yeah, he is a big-time comic dealer.
And he was just, I was like, are you making money? He said, no, I'm just buying stuff. And when he left, though, he left a big pile of used yellow bags in the where his booth was. I think he took off early, too. Yeah. Pat and I stuck it out. I have to talk to Pat to see how we did at the con. I don't recall many cons where we did bad. But, and of course, I look back and just, a lot of the fond memories of meeting the creators. I always tell the story about Butch because he was there and, he was hanging around Jim Lee and then Jim grabbed his thing and gave him a quick pencil sketch of Wolverine. Yeah, Butch even didn't remember that. I go, yeah, you were the only guy who got a sketch from him. Jim Lee wouldn't do sketches at cons because I don't know why. My theory is because his detail is so great that he doesn't want to just knock off quick head sketches. A fact kind of confirmed years later when we got one of those Batman Hush signed remarked edition, and it had a similar sketch in it, a real simple head sketch like Butch got. So obviously when faced with 1,000 copies uniquely signed and remarked by Jim Lee, he just sat down and did all these quick head sketches. Considering the goddamn thing was $600, and normal ones, 100. And, I thought maybe put a little bit more into it, but, hey, when you're, and this is pre-DC Jim Lee, he can do what he wants.
I think you should actually tell the story of how they got Jim Lee to show up at Source Comics and Games. This is through our old buddy Nick. Apparently they were auctioning off an appearance for Jim Lee. He would show up at your shop and do a signing and have a barbecue. And I think the assumption is Jim Lee loves barbecue. I don't know if that's true or not, but the fact he was going to come to do that. And so I wish I could remember who it was, but Nick was bidding on him, and it went silly. I mean, guys probably dropped out quick, and it was Nick versus this one guy. Now, you got to know something about Nick. If he wants something, he's going to get it. A lot of guys realized at the art auction that they do every year at the cons that if Nick was bidding on something, odds were good you were not going to get it. And the bidding went silly, and Jim Lee was just sitting back watching it. It was like, 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, 3,500, just going. Finally, when it got to around 8,000, Jim Lee just put a stop to it. Tell you what, guys, I will go to both shops for $8,000. And he did. And because this was for charity, so it wasn't, like Jim was pocketing it. And so they paid for it. I did not go to the signing because I had to work. And I think I'll talk to Pat. I think Gruber might have gone. And, you go and you get the signing. And at the time, I think Pat was working part-time at Uncle Sven's, so he got to hang for the barbecue afterwards. But, yeah, they made a big event out of it. And I think it was right before one of the cons. Because Nick wasn't sure. He was trying to angle, and again, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think Nick was trying to angle to see if he would do it closer to the con, and then it would kind of like, do your signing here, and then come to the con for a day, and then we'll send you home. But scheduling worked, and I will, the problem is there's not a lot of legacy guys left at the Source that would remember that. So I can't even go there and say, hey, do you remember when Nick got Jim Lee here? And hopefully somebody could give me a decent story about it. But I'll check around because, like I said, I didn't go to the signing, but I heard it was a great time. And I'd be curious to see, did Jim actually barbecue? Yes, he barbecued. And Nick pulled together a poker game because Jim Lee loves poker.
Oh.
But from what I heard, Nick was not happy about the poker game because, Nick likes all these weird games like baseball and
unlimited guts.
Yeah. And Jim Lee, Texas Hold'em.
Texas Hold'em
style.
Oh,
he wanted to play.
That's funny.
So you know who else likes the poker?
Disney, because Aladdin beat its that's $100 million debut expectation.
No, these guys, our sponsors. Promotional consideration is paid for by the following sponsors. Our first sponsor is DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com has been with us since the beginning. They're the best web host in the whole known universe. And if you need a web host, and you do because, Facebook, Google+, everything gets hacked. But if you set up your own web page, it'll never get hacked. Unless you kind of make some mistakes or pick an easy password like password. But still, you can have your own web page. If you use the code CRAYZ, Krayz, you get $20 off your first year. When you're at the office, do you often run to the vending machine for snacks? Those things are terrible for you. Instead, have snacks delivered to you. So go to Graze.com. Graze.com has healthy snacks that you can decide what kind of snacks you want, how often you want them, whether they get delivered to you, or if you choose them every time. I myself get the subscription box every 2 weeks so that I have healthy things to eat when I'm at work. You can get a free box by using the code CORYS3R5P. Matter of fact, use that code your fifth and your first box are free. Again, that's CORYS3R5P. If you'd like to advertise on any of the Solitaire Rose Podcast Network shows, you can. Just send us an email at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks.
Cool.
And I've got all these podcasts coming up. Matter of fact, Joe, go over to the YouTube page and you'll see that I've done my first unboxing video.
Uh-oh.
So you get to hear me ramble on and look at this face.
So how did you do that?
I used the web camera on my computer.
So I couldn't do that. I would have to do it maybe.
Probably doesn't look that good.
No, because I got my box day coming up, and I'm thinking maybe I'll unbox it too. But who knows?
But here's all the other stuff I do. The Solitaire Rose Radio Network has all sorts of podcasts for you. There's, of course, Crazy Comics and Stories, where myself and Crazy Joe Ryder get together once a week to talk comics. We review comics, we talk about upcoming comics, we talk about comics history. Anything that has to do with comics, we're going to talk about. We also have Series in Review, where we review series and kind of give a DVD commentary of past comics that we've enjoyed. There is also Solitaire Rose Radio. Solitaire Rose Radio is my solo show where I discuss upcoming comics, past comics, comics history, and interview comics creators. These are all at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. There's also the podcast I'm proudest of. That's Novelcast, where I take the novels that I have written and turn them into audiobooks. That's at novels.solitairerose.com. Over at Bad Advice, myself, Dan Moore, and Wolfie B. Bad take your questions and give you bad advice. It's at badadvice.solitairerose.com. Now, don't think that I'm doing all the podcasts, because there's also Scrabbling Across the West by Dave Coffell and Stephanie Coffell. Dave is a musician and Stephanie is his wife. They travel the country performing music and playing Scrabble over at scrabbling.solitairerose.com. And finally, the newest member of the Solitaire Rose Radio group, that's Fantastic Forecast, where myself and host of For the Love of Comics, Adam Vermillion, go over the series The Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time. That's available at fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com. If you would like to advertise on any of these podcasts, you can. Just email me at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks.
Now, is it any easier to do now that you can see?
Well, doesn't matter either way. It was more, do I have time to do it?
You funny man.
I know.
Bob Hope.
But now that we've done all the plugs, it's now time for Joe's plugs, or as he calls it, his favorite part of the show. Joe, what's going on the eBays?
Oh, I got all sorts of stuff. Matter of fact, my day today will be, I not only did I put back things that I sold, well, I seriously, I pulled about $1,000 worth of crap off the eBays and brought it to the charity booth. And then, of course, you got to be careful because I don't want to put things back on that I don't have. But I put it all back on. I double checked to make sure I do have the lowest prices, at least at the time, because I do love to undercut people. And things have been selling, slow but steady. It's a lot of it. It's like you always hear. It's not a sprint; it's a marathon. So a lot of lower dollar things are going. But damn, I love it when the marathon hits. Some of the things I've sold, some of these we've talked about. But Conan the Barbarian number 15, and let me hang in. Let's see if I got any money left. Well, I got a dime, Cory. For
yes.
This dime. Okay, it's a little tarnished, but you can clean it.
It all spends the same.
What is so significant about Conan the Barbarian 15?
Isn't that the first appearance of Red Sonja?
Nope.
Oh, it's Elric.
You are correct. And I had both copies. I had a 19, which was very... it was close to near mint. This one was only about very good fine, and somebody made an offer on it, and I took them up on it. I was blowing out a lot of my showcases. One I wasn't sure I wanted to keep, but then I kind of looked at it. DC Showcase presents The War That Time Forgot, Volume 1. Basic military fighting dinosaurs. I got the guy.
One of the greatest ideas ever in comics.
It is. That would be a fun one to do now if you could get someone to actually draw decent dinosaurs.
They did, with the new 52, they did one in a comic, GI Combat. And it was okay, but boy, it did not sell.
Ugh.
Which I don't understand. I would imagine if they did that on, they do a cartoon of it.
Oh, yeah.
#1 cartoon with boys ages 8 to 12.
Another one that didn't sell so good when it came out, and we talked about it a couple podcasts back. Justice League of America teamed up with the 99, the team of people based on the what would you say, traits out of the Quran? Yes. And this was just a 6-issue miniseries. I remember when it came out, I bought a ton of them, and I was trading them. My brother-in-law would go over to in a comic shop over in Kuwait. He would bring copies of Justice League America, the 99 over to him, and then he would bring copies of the 99 back, some of which are left on my eBays. He didn't come to SpringCon, but Doug, help me with the name again. Paskevich, thank you. I had a couple Arsenic Lullaby, The Devil's Only Friend Comic-Con exclusive mini comics, which he did a really nice drawing on the back, and only 50 of them. One of them sold. I'll get the other one up probably after this podcast. Some of the books I put up right away. I had a variant cover from Age of X-Men, Apocalypse and the Extract. Actually, I said that wrong. Age of X-Man. Cory, did you read any of that?
I have not yet. I'm waiting till it shows up on Marvel Unlimited because...
Didn't ask for it. Didn't care. Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing Hickman's coming on board because this is one I totally ignored. Some of the variant covers are kind of silly priced, and none of them seem to be on the eBays. I notice I've been having a lot of luck with things on the eBays that just nobody's posting. Kind of like what you were referring to earlier. Chuck sells it because he can, and it's kind of like I went and I looked up to see if there were any. There were none. And again, I posted a little high because I go with what the guide says, and then somebody makes the best offer, and I say yes. And a lot of these books, too, are ones that not only I found at the con, but they are extras that were left over from the charity booth. I don't mark which is which, but that particular one is going to the charity. I will swallow the eBay costs, and so they got some funds already set up for next year's booth. Secret Wars 2099, 1 through 5. Again, cheap. My first edition of Little Abner Dailies, Volume 1 from Kitchen Sink way back 1988. Cheap. Punisher #1, 10th series. in 2014, number 1. 10 Punisher series. Cheap.
Yeah.
Clive Barker's Nightbreed, number 16 from the 1992 Marvel Epic line. Cheap. Con Edison Energy and Safety Adventures with Superman and Friends. This is one of the giveaways at Con Edison, of course, is the New York energy thing. And there are a lot of comic giveaways like that people, they were put out for the kids, and it had Superman. It was done in kind of an anime style, 2006. And, when you don't hear about it because it's a regional thing, they start to become a bit of collectible item. But considering what the guide says, this one went kind of cheap. I had a box, Captain Marvel. It's called Culture Fly. They're usually at Target, and inside the box, they're usually a bunch of things that related to whatever property. In this case, the Captain Marvel movie. So you got a hat, a pin, a mystery item, a fanny pack, some patches, some decals. They do them for Black Panther. I just saw some for Iron Man. I was able to pick this one up cheap, and I was going to donate it, but it ended up selling right before the con. So good for me, hey? A couple of variant covers. One from, I mentioned the charity booth thing. The Dynamite Comics through Alan Payne sent me a couple variant covers. I put one up on eBay's. A Vampirella versus Reanimator number 1. They call it the Red Virgin Art variant cover because it's got Vampirella and all her bloody goodness. No logo or anything. Unfortunately, this one was damaged.
Believe it or not, kids, that when they say virgin cover, it doesn't mean that, it's only been held by virgins. No, it means there's no logo.
I don't know that for a fact. You cannot claim that.
I can claim it because there's no logo, no words on the cover. That's what they mean when they say virgin cover, which I think is it's silly.
But it is. It depends on the art. Sometimes you look at some of that artwork and it is really cool. If you like Vampirella, this is a pretty good one. But you'd have to go to scorpioncomics.com and get it because it was an exclusive cover for them. And it didn't go for silly money, but, and because it had a little ding, it went for a little less. But, yeah, Al donated it. Money for that's going to charity. Another one, Spider-Man, The Life Story number 3. Are you reading this one, Cory?
Yes, it is so good. The gimmick of it is they're telling the life story of Spider-Man, but they're having him age. So in the 60s, it's him as, the teenager in college, etc. In the 70s, he's a guy in his 30s. In the 80s, he's a guy in his 40s. In the 90s, it'll be a guy in his 50s, etc., etc. And the last one will be when he is in his 70s.
Interesting.
Yeah. And Chip Zdarsky's take on the alien costume story blew me away. It was so damn good. I could not recommend that comic more.
I'm waiting. I have it as a miniseries. Was it 7 issues? 6 issues?
It'll be 7 issues.
Okay.
I've got to buy it when it comes out as a trade paperback or a hardcover because that's what I'm going to reread over and over. Drawn by Mark Bagley.
Oh, awesome. I'm waiting till I get it all together to read it, which is I'm want to do. And then if I like it, I may do like Cory said, or I'll keep it, or I'll put it on the eBays. I'm not one. Oh, by the way, that was the Go-Go variant cover by Arco, and there were none on the eBays, and I just put it up at guide price, and it sold right away. And that one too is going right to the charity cons. I don't often preview books that are coming up on the eBays because I found it was something I remember talking with Cory. But do I want to talk about books that I sold, which leads to fun conversations like what we just had with Spider-Man Life Story. Or do I want to talk about books that I put on? But a lot of times what I find is I'll put it on and it might sell before the podcast drops. But I have 2 short boxes full of variant covers that I'm waiting to, and as soon as the podcast is over, that's my weekend. I'm going to scan them and get them up on the eBays. Not all. I just grabbed 5, and I thought I just mentioned them. Like I have a C cover from the all-new Michael Turner Soulfire #7. This was from 2017. And if you're ever on the shelf, if you see the C, that's the variant exclusive cover that the retailer has to buy a lot to get. As I dug through my Ultraverse collection, I discovered I have an extra copy of the Solitaire book. This was the one done by, I think, Jeff Johnson. I don't know, but this is one of the ultra limited 5,000 where they put the logo in foil and then they have the little stamp on the bottom. Not as rare as I'd hoped, but might not be the cheapest one on there. Speaking of Virgin covers, they're doing it with the cosplay covers too. I kind of think this is a fun idea. Marvel did it, and Dynamite does it almost every month, where they have a cosplayer dress up as Red Sonja, Xena. This one's Vampirella from Volume 4, number 3. I haven't talked about it in a long time because it's one of those books I just love month to month. Knights of the Dinner Table. I discovered I have 2 issues of number 13. I can't even tell you how far back that went. They're not as expensive as you'd think, but they are hard to find in good shape. And then one that I had, this is almost leads back to the beginning of the show. A book that is not on the I gotta have it tomorrow list, but by God, they're hard to find. The Drywall and Oswald Show from Fireman Comics. 1998. Number 1 is $9. Number 2 is $20. I'll go ahead and open this bad boy. This one actually is weird because as I was digging through the garage in preparation for the con, as I'm digging through, I'm just reading the copyright. Rob Schrab.
Oh, Rob Schraub.
Schraub.
That is Scud the Disposable Assassin.
There we go.
As well as Community and all these other stuff.
Yeah, that's probably why it has the price. This is probably one of those that came out that nobody was paying attention to when it first came out. Well, guess what? One's going up, and I got it. And if you see anything you like on the website, I don't have a lot of make an offer things, but you as listeners can always drop me a quick line, say, hey, I listened to this here show, and I'll cut you a deal, or I'll take, well, I don't know, let's reach out and grab something. Hey, look at this. I have the Fantastic Four Countdown to Chaos book from, I'm not sure, this is written by Pierce Akegren. And this obviously is a remainder book that dates to when Marvel was doing tons of trade paperback, or not, yeah, you said it right, trade paperbacks, dates from 1998. This was through Berkeley Boulevard Publishing.
Yeah, they were, it was the Marvel novels.
Oh, yeah, they got tons
published, of them. Those were all packaged by, what was his name? Brian.
Let's see, look. I don't see if he's packaging them. They don't. Penguin.
Yeah,
put them World Wide Web or.
Hold on, I can figure it out because he's also the guy who put together Weird Heroes back in the 70s. Byron Price.
Yeah, no, they didn't credit him in the page.
Well, but what it was, he packaged these things. Basically, he would go out, he would get the license, he would get the writers, he would work with the writers to do it, and then he would go to the publisher and go, here, I've got this. Do you want to enter into an agreement with me to publish these? And he used a lot of writers who either worked on Star Trek novels or then moved over to Star Trek novels. But he did all of those, all of the Marvel novels of the 90s. And it's one of the things when he passed away, that whole deal went away. And now Marvel is doing novel adaptations of their older stories. But I really like those Marvel novels of the 90s because it was, you could pick it up, you could put it down. It was just a quick, fun read rather than, I have to have read everything from Marvel over the last 10, 20 years. The writers were really good because they had that. They'd done novelizations before of, okay, we give you everything you need in the first chapter. Boom. Story has beginning, middle, and end. There you go. So cool. I love those novels.
Krayz. Look for me. Come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I use the original Sin eyes to see what's going on. I still have those, by the way, Joe. They still glow in the dark.
I've got one left.
And the Watcher is still dead.
I still got one. And I always thought what they should do, because, we got Nick Fury going around the moon. Bring the Watcher back. Bring the blind one from Earth X. That would be kind of an interesting twist. He was a bit of a bastard, too.
I'm actually kind of surprised they have not brought the Watcher back in some way. They've actually been using the Nick Fury. I forget what he's called now. He's not a Watcher, but he's being punished for killing the Watcher by being a cosmic entity. But no, it's freaking and geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Well, first of all, I can't read my handwriting.
That's terrible.
I know. Okay, well, basically, a lot of my stuff just has to do with my health, and I'm having a tough time.
It's hip watch too. Electric boogaloo.
Well, that's actually coming. Unfortunately, the arthritis has kicked in again, so my hands are really, really sore. I mean, you're talking even to lift anything. I may need help getting my omnibuses moved around. I don't know. It just sucks. I'm seeing the rheumatologist next month, and maybe he'll give me some different meds because the shit I'm taking now ain't doing nothing. As far as Hip Watch 2, oh yeah, last year the hip's doing just what it did last year. It hurts, it aches. I can't lay on it. I can't sit on it. I'm doing okay now sitting podcasting, but I mean, one thing that always drives my wife nuts is that I always move my leg. I'm a leg shaker, and my leg's moving like 100 miles an hour. When I stop, I feel a little ache going on. So I am going to talk to the doctor next week. I'm not going to wait till it's gone. I'm just going to go get a cortisone shot, and then I'm going to talk to the surgeon and see, hey, is it possible to just set up and commit to having the hip replaced this fall? Because I ain't going to spend another 6 months like I did last year. I mean, good God, that was a long time to be out with one ailment. And really, the difference is and this is more of a positive, I know what it is this time around. Last year, I didn't know what it was. And I don't even know how much of it I complained about in Freaking as we did the podcast. Because, I tried the chiropractor, nothing helped. I went to the regular doctor, meds didn't help. They took x-rays and they said, and you're talking every time I did that, it was another week gone. So by the time I got diagnosed and by the time I decided to do the cortisone shot, by the time I decided to do the thing, it was the end of August. And then they're like, okay, we'll get you in November. But I get rid of it now. Anyways. The other thing that's weird, and it's more of a personal freaking, and I bitched a lot about this last year, so I'm not getting into it, but they have this thing at work called light duty. It's limited duty if you're injured on the job, and they have to find a place for you to convalesce. Light duty if it's something outside the job. And the management was being bastards last year because their whole attitude, if you were injured, go home and heal and come back when you're better. And again, I'm not an idiot. I mean, some of it was because you always have guys who milk the system. Hey, I'm back. Oh, I just got hurt. I got to go home for another 8 weeks. Part of it I just didn't get. I mean, I remember talking to the manager. I said, that makes absolutely no sense. I can do the job. I just can't walk from here to there. And it's easier if I can sit on like a heating pad or an ice pack and just do the job. You've got sit down jobs. I could sit at exit. I could sit at ticket. I could stand a ticket, whatever. But I asked for light duty and was told no. And then, of course, I hobbled around the airport for 4 months, and then I get called aside by another manager. Go, well, we're going to have to do what we call a wellness report. And I was kind of like, what's that? So we're not going to get fired, but we need to. We've seen you hobbling around the airport, and I'm like, well, and this is where we are in our explicit label. It's goddamn nice of you to notice my pain finally. I only asked. Seriously, I could walk 10 feet and I had to stop because it hurt so frickin' bad. And my coworkers were awesome. I mean, they allowed me to, do the sit down job. They knew if they needed something to come to me, and normally I come to them. And anyways, But by the time they came at me with this, I was like, in 2 weeks it's a moot point because I'm getting a new hip and I'm going to be gone for 2 months. Anyways, so that's again, I'm a little angry about it, but I'm not. I talked with my union guy about it, and I'm not going to make waves. I don't care. It's in the past. I had planned for it. Blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera. I survived the furlough a lot better than some of my poor friends did, especially the ones who, like, both the husband and wife or the couple work at TSA, and boom, all of a sudden they got no income for. Anyways, I met another guy, one of my coworkers I've been working with a long time, and he's got something. He's in a boot cast, and he come over and he's like, "Yeah, I'm on light duty." And again, we're going to earn the explicit label. I looked at him and said, "Who did you blow to get that?" And he's like, "What?" And I said, "No, when I went and I relayed the tale I just relayed to you, and I said, yeah, I was basically told no. And what's the difference?" He goes, "Well, now they're so short people, they're not going to send people home." And I said, "What bullshit? They were just as short as they were last time. It's just the furlough hadn't tipped them over the edge. We're people who, yeah, we're hiring you. Oh, by the way, we're not going to pay you for 30 days. Are you okay with that? Oh, we can't train you either because those people are furloughed." Oy. And again, I said, no, I understand. And I talked about what was, his problem. And I just said, yeah, I'm not going to be harping on this, but I just basically kind of said, dude, you were so fucking lucky because the bullshit I had to go through. And again, I'm not on light duty. I'm still mobile. I'm achy and I know what it is. And like I said, when Monday hits, I'm going to call and just say, "Hey, F this. I'm doing the cortisone shot. I just got to time it." And then I'll talk to the doctor, and I'm sure by the time we have our next podcast, we may have, do you want to be a podcast guest again? But it won't be till hopefully later this fall, or winter. Because I tell you, it's the only way I can get Christmas off around here. Let's see, I got both hips.
Why would you want Christmas off?
But I have family for Christmas.
Yeah, but other people don't want to deal with their family, so they listen to us. We provide a service on holidays for people who do not want to deal with their families. They can download the podcast and listen to us while their racist uncle goes on and on and on.
Dude, I'm giving you 6 fucking months to find a co-host. It's not my problem. What my problem is now for next year, Christmas 2020, what the hell am I going to get operated on? Shoulder's a little stiff. Oh, well, we'll figure something out.
You've still got your original knees.
Oh, no, I don't want to mess with knees. I had
a friend. Come on, do the full Hulk Hogan.
No way. Hips are a piece of cake compared to people who get knee surgery. I got a friend who just had his knee surgery done, and he is a hurting unit. It probably won't be as bad because most of the people I know that need knee surgery are like a little overweight to begin with anyways. But, and that's probably what's working in my favor is I'm a svelte 180. And Cory knows me back when I was in my 230 phase. So, but I wasn't quite classic Joe. Classic Kray, maybe. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it. Anyways, that's enough freaking and health concerns. Cory, what do you see? Get it? See, because his eyes are better. That you're freaking on.
Well, I returned to work this week, and I'm actually looking, and I got an email that said, "Hey, we've extended your disability to 6'3". Fuck. Of course, they didn't extend it until Friday.
Yeah.
Late Friday. So
as we're recording this, it's 6/1. So obviously,
And they told me about it on 5/31.
Yeah.
Sons of bitches.
Well, it's not like they, screwed you up by sending it an email and your email was down, so you couldn't get it until your email was up.
No, they just waited until after I've been back at work for a week.
I'm sorry.
And I dove into both jobs because I was only supposed to do a sleep overnight on Tuesday and Friday. Well, Tuesday I get an email, "Hey, the new cottage, they want somebody there for the overnight. Can you please come and work at that cottage?" Now, Joe, normally when I do the sleep overnights, I come in, there's a couch, I sleep on the couch. When I went to one of the new houses, they have a staff room, which has a bed and everything. The new house, no. No. And the couch and everything's it's all on, the main floor where the awake staff needs to have lights on in order to do cleaning and stuff. So I went to the basement. They have a bedroom down there, but they haven't set it up yet because, they don't have any. They only have 3 clients. So, they're saving that bedroom for if they get a 4th client. So there's nothing there. There was a TV and one of the recliners that has the 2 seats and the button so you can recline back, but you have to use the button to do so. So Wednesday night, Thursday night, slept myself on a recliner. Let me tell you something. A 54-year-old sleeping on a recliner, that's some good sleeping.
That's why I woke up 10 minutes before the podcast, because not only was I sleeping in, I now have a recliner that actually lays all the way flat as opposed to the one. Oh, yeah, you're just kind of there and you nod off. And no, not only was I sleeping in that, trying to get my hip to settle down, but also we had thunderstorms last night, and oh man, the cool weather came through and it was good. For me, it was good sleeping.
Well, I slept well last night because I'm back at the cottage where I could sleep on a couch. It's a leather couch, but if I use my sheets, I'm not slipping and sliding all over the damn leather couch. But it's a full-time job. I won't get into all the details about what annoyed me at the full-time job, but I come back on Tuesday. I have been gone for 6 weeks. Come back on Tuesday. And I would think that, at least someone would say, hey, you're back. Welcome back. I get there a half hour early because, I want to make sure. I haven't hooked up my computer in 6 weeks. I don't know what's going on. I have to adjust everything so that I can see stuff. So I get there early and, I log on my computer, make sure everything's connected. And this new supervisor who I guess came over while I was gone said, why are you at your desk with your computer on? Well, because I have to take calls at 8:30, and I want to make sure everything's set up. I had eye surgery, so I need to adjust everything. No, you can't be at your desk early. Well, I didn't log in. I'm not getting paid. That doesn't matter. If you're at your desk, you have to be working.
We talked about this offline, and I told Cory, I don't know what it's like in the private sector, but in the government world, if I get bullshit like that, I'm like, is that in writing? Because if it ain't in writing, I'm not obliged to follow it. But how does that work in your world?
You have to do it.
Yep.
Because, that's what your boss says.
Yeah.
So I go into the break room and I come back, and my email from when I was gone hasn't even completely downloaded so I can see what's changed before calls start coming in. And the other supervisor, who's known me for a couple of years, doesn't say welcome back, doesn't say anything, drops by about 5 minutes before the end of the day to say, oh, how you doing? Are you back? Coworkers, a couple of them. I didn't find out until Thursday. I'd already been back at work 3 days. One of the other supervisors had left. And not just, she turned in her 2-week notice and left. No, she got very frustrated and went to lunch and did not come back. Ever. So I see just how loved I am at my full-time job. I already talked about how I slept on a couch normally, and nope, you got yourself a recliner. Comic-wise, I don't have anything that I'm really complaining about comic-wise. I'm looking at the stuff coming up. It looks exciting. Both Marvel and DC are making really solid moves to bring in new readers. I'm pretty happy about comics. I read something online.
Uh-oh.
That's what I shouldn't have done.
We warned you.
Yep. The new people who are helping Marvel and DC move into new markets, they don't know anything about comics. They shouldn't have gotten hired. Then it was announced that there's going to be a Tigra and Dazzler animated series that's aimed at adults. And it was pitched, and the person running the writing room is Chelsea Handler. What does she know about comics? They need to hire people who know the comics. The way she's talking in the press release, she doesn't know anything about the characters. Yeah, but she's a successful She's had a number of successful TV series. Why are you so freaking out about this? Oh, because you're a comics fan and you think the job should be yours. Guess what? People who know comics in the comic industry are dime a dozen. If you can hook into people who know how to get TV shows on the air, you're going to work with them. Why? Because they fucking know how to get TV shows on the air! If you're trying to break into other markets, you're going to hire people who work in those markets because they fucking know those markets! Again, people who know comics, dime a dozen. I know comics. Would Marvel ever hire me to pitch a TV show to a major network? No. Why? Because I don't know anything about TV, I don't know anything about networks, and I don't know anything about running a writer's room. Joe?
Yes?
What are you geeking on?
I'm going to see Rocket Man tonight with my wife. That's the semi-autobiography, not really, let's see what was wrong with it, thing on Elton John. I enjoyed Bohemian Rhapsody, so I've got high praise for this. Plus, I've also heard Elton John gave it his personal okie dokie. And we're going to the bistro, which is fun, which means we get there and they're going to have wait staff. They come and they'll bring me anything off their menu. And as this theater is the Marcus Ultraverse, it's not the Ultra Screen, but it's one of their.
It's I'm going to the Ultraverse.
Nobody will know where I'm at and what I'm talking about. Oh no, but yeah, they have a full menu. They got a full bar, so it should be fun. I already mentioned it, and I'm excited. Box Day is Tuesday, so that means next week I imagine Cory and I will be diving into this year previews and seeing what things we think you should be spending your hard-earned cash on. Speaking of hard-earned cash, and I backed another Kickstarter. This one is Savage Dragon, Johnny Raygun, and Sergeant Werewolf comic book. It was two different comics, and I believe I went high enough to support them both. And Johnny Raygun and Sergeant Werewolf were created by Rich Woodall. And what got me was the Savage Dragon, because apparently he's going to show up and teach Johnny Raygun how to be a better superhero. And they had all sorts of fun things. I don't know, and maybe Cory can tell us, it's over with, because I got the blurb on this like hours before it ended, and I went and supported it. But if you can still support it, even though it's no longer being run, are you able to jump on board like that?
Yeah, you can always sign up and order it after it's done if it's successful.
Yeah, and this one is. So he sent a note saying he's working on it. He says hopefully he can get it out by October. It's promised date, if not before. So that's kind of cool. Let's see what else is going on. Oh, I have no comics, TV shows, or whatever to really gab about, but I've been spending a lot of time on the YouTubes. Not so much looking at videos, although there's a ton of good ones out there, especially now that we actually saw Avengers and I can go look at the Endgame stuff. But I've been looking at just a lot of music videos. A while back, I watched something on Netflix. It might have been the CNN show about the way we view music. You know, how it started, and they put music on the radio, and the music industry went nuts and sued the radio until, if they listen to a radio for free, they'll never buy the disc. Well, no, it actually worked the other way around. People hear the music, they go out and they want to buy the 45s and the LPs. And just how things went from that to LPs to 45s to CDs to MP3s. And now pretty much anytime you do anything, it's streaming, and you just put it on the YouTubes. And of course, they got the Velcro there. So if it's posted, the artist gets a piece of the action, just like they do in radio. You know, we've looked at it in the podcast thing, and it's a little more murky, because podcasting has not only download rights, but streaming rights. And that's why when we feature the music at the end of the podcast, it's from an artist, usually a lesser known one that doesn't mind the free exposure, and, again, we're not talking to Avril Lavigne, who just has a new one coming out. Hey, you want some free exposure from us? Yeah, right. But she had a new one called Let It Be with Chad Kroeger from Nickelback. Very haunting song. I actually loved it. Speaking of people who don't need our help, Katy Perry dropped a new one, Never Really Over. And apparently within an hour, it had already had 1 million views. Cory, we need to step up. We need 1 million views in an hour. That's what it's all about.
Well, get Katy Perry and her spectacular chest.
Well, I just went to the YouTubes. I guess I see the conundrum there. However, are you fans of the Rembrandts, Cory?
Yes.
They're back. They were here yesterday. They actually were on the Jason Show and sang their new single, Broken Toy. And if you go to the YouTubes, you can hear it. Their album isn't due out, I think, till August, but their first album hit. And, of course, they have their old ones up there as well. So, again, it's more of a promotional thing now. And not only can you hear them play it on a local show, but that got me to go to the YouTubes and watch it. Then, of course,
the big change in music from the few musicians I know, they don't make any money on the CDs and the digital downloads, et cetera, et cetera. They make their money on touring, which is why more and more bands are on the road all the time.
Well, in the case of the Rembrandts, they haven't really done anything. They haven't released anything in 10 years, but they've been writing stuff nonstop. Yeah. And now they're ready to come back. So again, if you're a Rembrandt fan, and I am, not only did I download and watch the Friends video, which was hilarious because you got the actors from Friends goofing in the background, but the new one is just a lyric. They haven't done a real video. That's just a lyrics thing, so you can listen to the song, and it's actually pretty good. Occasionally, I'll run across, again, team-ups. I swear, Chad is not even touring with Nickelback. He's just busy appearing in other people's videos. He was in one with Santana, Into the Night. Awesome song. Every so often, I'll hear something on radio, and then my daughter showed me how you just catch a little of the lyrics, and you can find it. That's how I discovered the band Ghost, and they have a really amazing video called Dance Macabre, and the song's pretty cool, too. And then, of course, from there, it leads on to other music. I discovered one called Lady Antebellum, which is a country group. And their song was Need to Know, which I loved. And then I was bored, so I checked out another one. And they have one called Hey Bartender, which is hilarious because the video is kind of like, the three women they're fed up. They're going out to have a drink, and it's kind of like a match between the bartender and the ladies because the lady comes out round one, and the bartender does his best, and the ladies pound it, and then round two. It's just a fun video to watch. Occasionally, I'll run across videos that a fan has made that sometimes are better than the original. Fun Dreamer 1 does a fantastic version of ELO's Don't Bring Me Down. Worth checking out. Truth Serum 2000 did Big Data's song Dangerous. Their video is better than Big Data's video. And then, of course, there are the covers. I absolutely love covers. I think it was a Scottish group, the Coors. They did one from Fleetwood Mac Dreams. Now, it's Sister and Brother Act, and the women are gorgeous, so check it out. Marilyn Manson? Oh, he did A Suicide is Painless. Oh my God. This is not a song you want to give to somebody who's depressed. I was depressed afterwards. The band I mentioned earlier, Ghost, they did a live cover of Enter the Sandman. And speaking of live stuff, and I'm getting to the end. Oh, there are some awesome live performances on here that just, they range from ultra silly to just, these guys had balls to do it. Ultra silly, such as the whole story, David Grohl, and he was goofing on the fact that they thought, hey, you know what? The Nirvana song Team Spirit has the same licks as, is it Rick Ashley's Never Gonna Give You Up? The whole Rick Roll thing. And while they were laughing at that, who shows up with Rick Ashley? And they find the guy, and they mention it to him, and he goes, would you want to do this on stage with us? We can do the guitar part. You just sing the song. And he goes, brilliant. And you can see the results, not only the interviews that Grohl did, but the results on it. And you can also see Rick swearing like crazy, which you usually don't normally see. Speaking of Dave Grohl, you tell me, did you see, Cory, the CBS special where they were saluting the Beatles?
I did not.
Oh my God.
I saw bits and pieces of it when it aired, but I didn't get to see the whole thing.
I didn't see all of it. I think I watched all of it, but the part, go look up David Grohl and Jeff Lynne doing Hey Bulldog in front of Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. I mean, and they dug it. They dug, and that's what's cool. And Hey Bulldog is like, it's not a song that even made the Beatles top playlist, but it's a song that's just amazing in the fact that these guys had the balls to do it. Speaking of balls, and this is fantastic, Ann Wilson of Heart. Oh my God, what a voice. Her sister Nancy, and Jason Boham did Stairway to Heaven at the Live Kennedy Center Honors in front of Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and John Paul Jones. And they knocked it out of the ballpark. I don't know what's more fun is watching this performance or watching the fact that they amazed the surviving members of Led Zeppelin with their cover. And I mean, that's what I used to sit when I was at work, because I got that day where I basically got to stay awake in front of a computer and read comic books. But it's changed to now I listen to these old songs. All these videos I mentioned were fun to watch. And then, of course, you get just old songs. I've been discovering old Linda Ronstadt's songs from the 70s, when I was a little kid, and you had to hope the song you wanted to be played would either be put on the AM radio or that they'd actually pick up and hey, would you play this for me? No, click, like they want to do. So yeah, I'm really digging the YouTube videos, and I'm going to post a meme that I stole from somebody that it says, hey, I'm bored. Tell me list a song that you like, and it will tell me something about you. And I'm going to sit and listen to these songs. So if you, let's see, where the hell are we in the date calendar? I will post that probably right before this podcast drops. And if you're a listener out there and you're not, first of all, if you're not a fan of our Crazy Comics and Podcast page, go ahead, give us a like. We don't do a lot on it, but Cory does a good job of uploading stuff there and on the YouTubes. But you can go onto my page. My page is wide open, and drop your favorite song. I would love to listen to it on the YouTubes. I would love to be exposed to the different types of music. And of course, we'll get back to that when we get to the music choice we have at the end of this here podcast. Because, if I choose my own music, I'm hopelessly stuck in the 80s. That was my high school, my college days. And that's when I worked college radio as well. If you go to listen to something I'm comfortable with, that's my choice of music. But, when my daughters were growing up, I listened to a lot of Radio Disney, and I heard a lot of fun music. And occasionally they'd be upstairs listening to something, and I'd have to stop and say, what are you listening to? Or sometimes they didn't even know. But then they'd come down later and say, I was listening to this, So just a lot of fun. And the best part, like this here podcast, it's free. I listen, I watch the ads, blah, blah, blah. I link over them. I have not downloaded the YouTube premium channel and avoid the ads yet. Because I'm cheap. Cheap, I tell you. That's enough geeking for me. I feel pretty good. Cory, what are you geeking on?
I am now about halfway through Infinite Crisis. That's a big omnibus, man.
I know. I'm looking at it. It's sitting on my shelf. I think I bought it secondhand. Or did I buy it through Discount Comic? I don't know, but I got it. I concur.
And as I'm reading it, it's like, oh, yeah, I really want to read the Greg Rucka Checkmate series. I really want to read this. I really want to read that. And, I talked about it last week. This was, to me, DC firing on all cylinders. And the thing that works best about it for me is it's getting me excited about all the spinoffs. And when you do a big crossover right, it should get you really excited about all the stuff that spins out of it. Whereas a lot of the, you can tell a bad crossover when it's like you feel like you have to read this in order to, oh, God.
It's a crisis crossover. Look at the red skies.
So that I know what the hell's going on.
Speaking of that, they should have every month in one comic book, everybody have red skies. It was 10 years ago, but, it was throughout time and space, whatever.
Oh, I like that.
We're giving away $1 million ideas here. Nobody's taking us up on them.
When I was told that I would not have the full-time sleep shift position, I was upset for a lot of reasons, one of which was something that happened this week. I had the 2 shifts at the house in St. Louis Park, I got off work at 6. Took my car. 10 minutes away was the gym. So I would, I had everything in the car I needed. I had my workout fit. I had my workout outfit. And I would just schlep it all into the gym, do an hour of cardio, get a shower, get changed, get to work. I'd be at work, half hour early, as I said. So after the first day, I just sat in the car and would read comics on my tablet. But I really liked being able to go to the gym and do that before work. It really woke me up because most mornings when I get to work, it's like, oh, God, I need so much caffeine. Now, did it feel as good as sleeping in an extra hour that I would do if I, no, nothing feels as good as sleeping an extra hour. But it was still nice, and if they do start farming me out to all these other different houses, I will probably continue to do the same thing. I also, on my tablet, am able to watch things. So it's there are a few older comic creators I follow online who will actually talk about what they're watching on Treadmill TV. Somebody actually went through all 3 seasons of The Good Place, and it was fun watching because when the twist hits at the end of season 1, they didn't see it coming, and they were a lot like you. And there are 2 more seasons of this. How the hell are they what are they going to do from here? For me, I watched Happy, which is based on the Grant Morrison comic. And then I started watching Adam Ruins Everything.
Not to interfere, but did I tell you about my buddy who I got hooked on Happy?
No.
Oh, it's basically one of the things I can do is to watch something, but I try not to at work because what I find is my focus gets so intent on what I'm watching or reading that I miss what I'm supposed to be doing, looking for explosives and bags. But I said, yeah, I saw this thing called Happy, and 2 guys were, oh my God, you got to watch it. Oh, what's it about? I cannot tell you. I don't want to spoil anything. And I didn't realize it was Grant Morrison's miniseries either.
Yes.
And I watched the first episode with my wife, and I oh my God, this is crazy. I don't think cared for it as much because we haven't gone back to visit it. But I told a friend of mine, he watched the first episode. About a week later, he said, dude, I just finished season 1. How do you? I'm like, dude, I haven't watched anything else. Utterly appalled by the violence. Cannot look away. Feels absolutely terrible that he has to keep watching it. He just finished the 2nd season, and I said, guys, I'm putting on my headphones. You guys go ahead, talk about the 2nd season. So yeah, another one that I will give. I'll rant more about as soon as I actually watch more about it.
But I also started watching Adam Ruins Everything, which is a little like the old Penn and Teller show Bullshit, where they pick a topic and debunk myths about it. And it's only a half hour. The host is really charming. It's funny. It has a formula, but I like the fact that they actually refer to the formula because, he's telling people all these things, ruining the experience. But then at the last act is him saying, oh, but here's the good thing about this. And I like how, as they're finishing up the 2nd act and the person starts to storm off, he goes, wait, you know about the show? I'm going to fix it. But it's really charming, and the 2nd season is available on demand on Comcast for free. The 1st season, not every episode, but most of the 1st season is available on Netflix. And it's called, like the best of or whatever. And actually, the fact that I was able to get back to work, I'm at my computer with glasses. And the other thing is, if you go to my Facebook page, when I got to the group home last night, there was a note there from my immediate supervisor saying that they appreciate how flexible I am. And one of the things that always is a good compliment to me is you seem so calm and easygoing about all the chaos going on. There are a number of reasons for that. First is that my anxiety, I feel my anxiety shows to everybody. And one of the things I learned years ago is, no, I'm really good at holding that back from Everybody except the people who I really trust. And the second thing is, the reason I'm like that is because I've already gone through all the horrible things that can happen a million times before I have to deal with it. As my son said, my backup plans have backup plans. So it was really nice to get a compliment like that. And then I think because the new supervisor realized that the way she had introduced herself to me was kind of being a pain in the ass, she actually stopped me in the hallway yesterday and said, "I've been listening to your calls. I really like how you help people through the call. I really like how you sound like an expert. You don't sound like you're fishing. You don't sound like you don't know what's going on. It really inspires confidence in the callers. I'm actually going back and rescoring some of your calls that I think a previous supervisor scored way too low." So they may not say hi to me. They may not welcome me back, but at least, they say I'm doing a good job. Well, believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about God knows what for an hour and a half.
What is your malfunction?
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
I don't know how he does it, but Dave Coffell is still on the road. He's going to be at Asheville, North Carolina. He's going to be at that's on the 19th of June. On June 14th and 15th, he's in Sheridan, Wyoming. On June 21st, he'll be in Crossville, Tennessee. 22nd, Nashville, Tennessee. 25th, Monticello, Minnesota. And on the 27th, up here in Roseville, Minnesota. So I'm kind of hoping maybe I can break free from work and actually see him perform. In the meantime, you don't have to, because he's graciously allowed us to drop another one of his songs. This week, Matthew's Boat. Cory, hit my music.